Hey everyone, my name's Kelly and I will be guiding you through Chrome DevTools today. To start out, we're going to use a text editor on our own computer to create some sample files. So I'm going to open up Atom, that's my text editor of choice, and over here on the left side, this is the tree view, I'm going to add a project folder on my desktop called Chrome Dev Tools, create, and I'm going to open up that project folder. Cool, so to demonstrate Chrome DevTools, we're going to need an HTML file to start out. So I'm going to make a new file in my project folder, and I'm going to call it index.html. You can see that this HTML file is located inside this project folder. To have a really simple HTML file, all I'm going to do is type HTML and then tab, and that will generate a basic scaffolding of an HTML document. Right here where my cursor is, this is the title tag. This title goes inside the tab at the very top of your browser and lets you know what you're looking at. So I'm going to call it Chrome Dev Tools. Cool. In my body, let's just have a simple header that says Chrome Dev Tools Demo. Cool. This little blue dot up here just lets me know that I haven't saved this file yet, so I'm going to do Command S, save the file, and then what I can do is right-click on my index.html file, show it in my Finder window, and then I'm going to just double-click and it'll open right up in Chrome. Now you can see that instead of a regular URL that might start with an HTTP, this one starts with a file. And this is just going to tell me where this file is located on my local machine. So you can see it's in the users directory, my username, desktop, my project folder, and then there's the file name. You can also see that Chrome DevTools, the title of the HTML document, is right up here. And then, of course, the header that we created is right here. Now, Chrome DevTools, to open it up, I can either go into Chrome on the menu here, go to More Tools, and Developer Tools, or my preferred option is just right-clicking and clicking Inspect. Cool. So this toolbox looks a little bit complicated. We're just going to focus on a couple of the features of Chrome DevTools to start out for any type of web development. Just some basic layout. You can resize the Chrome DevTools to make it convenient however you'd like, whatever you're looking at. So you can resize this section, you can resize these. Basically any divide you're able to resize for whatever use you need. You can also change where the dock is located. Right now I have it located on the right. I can move it to the bottom here, or I could make it a pop-out window, so just floating above my browser. Depending on what type of work you're doing, any of these could be really useful. All right, so for this demonstration, what we're going to be focused on mostly is elements, this tab here, sources, and I'll demonstrate a little bit of the console tool. So to start out, we're in Elements. This is the default tab that opens up when you open up Chrome DevTools. In Elements, you can see the basic structure of the HTML file. You have the head here and the body here. If you click on the arrow, it'll expand that tree to show you what's contained inside of that particular tag. You can see here, that's where the title is from the document that we created. Inside the body, you can see that there's an H1 tag. Some neat things you can do with HTML files is that you can change the content of them immediately here in the Chrome DevTool. So what I can do is double click right where the title is and say maybe some other title. You'll notice that as soon as I make a change, it flashes pink here. Then you can actually see the change update immediately right up here. However, It's really important to note that any change that you make in your HTML file here in the Elements tab is not permanent. So if I go back to Atom and I look at this file, you can see that this title, Chrome DevTools, hasn't actually changed. So if we go back to the browser, if I just refresh this, this tab in Chrome, it's going to show me the actual file content that we have on our local machine. You can also edit anything inside of the body tag. So for example, I could finish this word, demonstration, press enter, and that changes right there. Instead of just editing the text content between tags, I also have the ability to add other elements. So what I can do is right-click anywhere inside of the Elements tab, and I can say Edit as HTML. So below this, H1, I can maybe add a paragraph. Some content for a paragraph. Great, so I just added a paragraph here with some content in it. And if I click out of that, you can now see this paragraph is in the file as we can see it here. However, back in Atom, no paragraph has actually been added to the file on my computer. Some other neat features in this Elements is that you can use this tool. It's a select tool, and you can hover over different elements on your screen. You'll notice that as I hover over the text here, it tells me that it's an H1 and it gives me the width and the height. If I hover in between this, it'll say that I'm hovering over the body, because I'm not directly on any of the internal elements in the body. Then if I hover over the paragraph, you can see where the paragraph is. If I click on one out here, let's say I click on the header, it's going to highlight that right over here, and it's also going to give me the style that this H1 header is using. Now these are the default styles that Chrome gives an H1 header. Because I don't have any style sheet in this particular project, so these are the default values. So what I can do if I want to change some style on the spot is I can click in here, element.style, and what that's going to do is it's going to add a style attribute for whatever element is currently selected. Because I have H1 selected, I can add, let's say, an attribute for color, which will color the text, and let's make that green. If I press enter, there you go. That's a new attribute. I can also change the font size. Let's say it'll be 5 ems. That's pretty large. Cool. So these are a few styles that I can add here. I could also add a new style rule entirely, and let's say whenever I hover over an H1 element, the background color is going to get changed to orange. Cool. So let's see if this works. Oh, look at that. So you can see that as the mouse hovers over the H1, the background color changes to orange. Pretty neat, huh? Another really neat thing about the Styles tab is that you can change settings of elements to change their state. So you can check out what's actually happening during a particular state. This right here, if I'm currently selected on H1, my mouse isn't hovering over it, but if I click HOV, it'll have a bunch of different states that I can choose from. For example, hover is one of them. So if I select hover, it'll change it to orange because I have the H1, when it's hovered, having an attribute color of orange. Another really neat part of the Styles tab as a subsetting of elements is this section here. Now, this visual representation shows us all of the size attributes of whatever element we're on. So an H1 tag is a block element. And so you can see here, Right now, the size is 554 by 276. If I change this window here, you'll notice that the width actually increases. And this is because the H1 element will take up the entire width that it has accessible to it. You'll notice, however, that the body is making a little bit of an orange box surrounding both elements. And that's because a body by default has an 8-pixel margin. And so this is a nice way to figure out where your different elements take up space and how they interact with each other. You'll also notice that this paragraph is a block element as well, so it's going to take up all of the space that it can. And by default, it has a margin on both the top and the bottom. Some neat things you can do to change that around. Let's see. So let's select the H1 tag again. And let's add a padding to this H1. So let's add 20 pixels of padding all the way around. Okay, so this, you can see here, that's represented by a green color. And it's 20 pixels all the way around the H1 content. We could also add a border. Borders also take up space. So let's say a 5-pixel border that's solid and black. Why not? Keep it simple. Cool, so now we have this border here, and this border takes up 5 pixels of space, in addition to the 20 pixels of padding. Cool. And the final thing that we could add is maybe, instead of just a margin on the top and the bottom, let's add a margin just on the left. So margin left, let's make it 100 pixels, be bold. Okay, so you'll notice that this element now has a whole lot of orange coloring on the left side because we've just given it a margin of 100 pixels. Neat. This is a really great way when you're working on laying out HTML files to play around with different sizes and seeing how your elements are interacting with each other. And of course, remember that if you refresh this page, it's going to go back to default. And that's because this index.html file is located on your computer. And so any changes that you make here are not actually reflected on that file on your computer. There is an exception though, and that's when you start making CSS files on your computer. So right now, our sources are just this index.html file. That's the only thing that we have loading on the in the browser. We could add a CSS file and then start adding some style to our file. So let's go back to Atom. And in our project folder, we can right-click, make a new file, and let's call it style.css. Great. So let's just make some basic style. So let's color our H1 kind of like how we had it. So let's make it the color green. Let's make our font size really large. Let's save that. So you see how Atom has this blue dot that shows us that we haven't saved. So I'm going to do Command S, save it. Now, if we want this style to affect this HTML file, we're going to need to link it together. So I'm going to add a link tag and link it to the file name style.css. We can just call it style.css because it's located in the same project folder. Great, so let's save that. Visit our browser. You'll notice that instead of just having index.html, we're going to refresh, and now we have style.css as one of our source files that we're pulling information from. You'll also see that our H1 is green and very large. Pretty cool, huh? So with this new file that we have, we can see the style.css here as an option, as well as our index.html. You'll notice that if you try to type in here, Chrome DevTools won't let you. However, if you try to type in style.css, it definitely will let you. So what I'm going to do is add that hover style because I thought it was pretty cool. So background color, let's make it orange again. Oh, cool. So when I add attributes here in this file, you'll see that there's a little asterisk next to this file name. And you can see that yes, on hover it's orange, but if I refresh the page, that will get erased. And that's because the file was not saved. That asterisk means that there's been changes in this file, but they have not been saved. So what I'm going to do is I'll add that attribute again. Background color is orange. And then you can either just hit Command S, or you can right click and click Save. I want to make sure I'm in my project folder, and here in style.css, click Save. I'm going to replace, the asterisk is gone, the orange background is here. If I refresh, that style attribute stays, it persists. A really cool thing to see with this is if you actually look at your text editor here, let's see, let's get a little bit better of a layout. So if I actually watch my style.css file, and let's say I want, let's just change the font family. So I'm going to make font family sans serif. Okay, so I just added font family sans serif. So that just means there's not going to be any serifs on this font. Right now you can see the change here, but in my local file, the change hasn't been made. That's because I still have an asterisk here, it has not been saved. If I right click in here and click Save, that change happens right here on my computer. So after you've done a save and replace the very first time while you have Chrome DevTools open, if you just click Save, any times after that, it'll save it automatically on your local machine. Pretty cool, huh? Some other really neat features with Chrome DevTools is this mobile option. So if I click on this here, it changes it into some mobile device with different sizes and different settings on Zoom. This is really great for designing because you can test out your design on different size devices. You'll see that on Nexus 5, my design hasn't quite been optimized. All sorts of things. So many different devices. I highly recommend checking out all of these features on Chrome DevTools. Once you get into more front-end programming is the console. In JavaScript, you can do a console.log. Let's type in hello, and it will log hello. Pretty nifty. I highly recommend going to one of your favorite sites, let's go to GitHub for example, and trying to inspect the page. So I'm just going to go to inspect. One of the first things you'll notice is that there's tons of information. Especially if it's a more modern site, there's going to be a lot of style, a lot of animation, and a lot of scripts that are interacting on the front end. You can inspect different elements, see how different styles are affected, and you can even edit if you really want to play around with things. Let's make a don't panic button. That sounds like fun. So on GitHub, now it says don't panic. You can change colors. Say I'm selected on this H1 with this class. Ooh, and it's white. Let's change that to black. Cool, now the text is black. See, you can just mess around with all sorts of things. Chrome DevTools is an invaluable resource for developers. With the ability to investigate HTML layouts, edit styles like right in the browser, it's a really great tool to use. There's some more advanced features that I didn't get into that you might find valuable as you progress as a developer. Happy coding!